To discuss more, we are now being joined by Dr. Abner Cohen. He's professor of non-proliferation and terrorism studies at the Middlebury Institute. Dr. Cohen, thanks very much for joining us live on this broadcast. Now, recently there has been a shift in tone when it comes to the US and especially US President Donald Trump when it comes to Iran. But, sir, on the ground, matters seem to be escalating and there continue to be strikes and counterstrikes. Now, this leads to more escalation on the ground, sir.
Well, there is a threat for more escalation right now. There is troops that's on their way. Some arrived, some will be arriving. The problem is that as of now, the entry position of both the United States and Iran are far apart, maybe even ocean apart. And it would be very, very difficult to make a deal that both sides could appear somewhat satisfied. And it seems that Iran is ready for attrition war. And it seems that as much as Iran tactically and locally is beaten everywhere, essentially, both Israel and the United States dominating the air over the entire Iran or most of the Iran, and yet Iran is not ready to capitulate and to agree to the condition that the United States is asking. In fact, it's asking totally unacceptable conditions, including reparations from the United States. So there is interest to talk, but how far the talk could go, it's open questions. And it's also interesting to know that so far there is no direct talk. The talk is via mediators, Pakistan, Egypt, Turkey, and others, but so we'll see.
Right. Right, so you say that Israel and the US are dominating the skies over Iran, but Iran does continue to counterstrike, and American soldiers have been wounded in Saudi Arabia.
Correct. There is no way to compare the way that each side hits the other one. Iran is very, very badly damaged. Essentially, much of its infrastructure in terms of productions of military equipment, munitions, all sorts of elements of war have been degraded very significantly. Iran was able to hit here and there some American targets, including embassies, but there is no way to compare. But the fact is that Iran is able to somewhat to function. It's able to engage nearly 10 countries. Recently, they even engaged Lebanon, who threatened to expel Iran's ambassador. And Iran is not ready to, as I mentioned, is not ready to capitulate.
Right. Dr. Cohen, I would just like to add that at this point, it seems like the US is more willing to hold a dialogue with Iran after we've seen almost a month, actually a month almost, we have seen the war has been escalating. So right now the US is more willing to hold a dialogue. So do you think that push will see both of them getting on the table anytime soon?
I think there is interest on both sides to talk. And I think that both sides would like to find something that would allow at least a temporal ceasefire to have, in order to have more serious conversation, to get some kind of framework agreement. Whether it's enough for both sides to have enough sense of satisfaction, enough sense of requirement fulfilled, it's an open question. I don't think that's the case. And I think the United States, because of that, will have to show more to Iran that Iran is indeed... Iran does not have a sense it's a defeated state. Both the United States and Israel feel that they have beaten Iran in so many ways and so many times and for over 4 weeks, and yet Iran is breathing and is not ready to recognize itself as a defeated state. What's interesting also is the fact that many of the neighboring states, including Saudi Arabia and most of the, perhaps all of the Gulf states, asking for the United States, don't leave it before Iran sense itself as being defeated. And that may take time.
Right, Dr. Cohen. Now, coming to the Strait of Hormuz, that continues to be the focal point or one of the focal points of this war. The UN has now created a task force, and although they have stated that it is only for humanitarian assistance at this point, can it be seen as a sign of positive things to come, especially for the US?
I don't think so. I think what the United Nations offering is does not have any practical significance at the present time. It's something after will be some kind of agreement. The United Nations would like to show it's relevant right now. Right now, it's not. I think the European also offers some kind of help after the conflict would be, at least, would be temporarily suspended, let alone ended. But as of now, the Iranians are not ready to either to allow it a very selective way of passage of ships, and essentially, for all practical purposes, the straits are closed to any country which is not friendly, is not ready to accept Iranian terms.
Right. So you also mentioned that Donald Trump has been frustrated with NATO. So when it comes to the American allies, NATO, do you think there is a sense of frustration from the U.S. about their involvement, and do you see that changing in the near future?
No, and that could be a very deep fracture that could lead ultimately to either the end of NATO or NATO becoming a very, very tiger of paper, very weak entity. I think that as long as Donald Trump is in power, I do not see a real reconciliation between NATO and the United States. Given what happened vis-a-vis Greenland a few months ago, and now the very cautious approach of the European, which none of them have been consulted before the United States and Israel decided to attack Iran, I do not see any time, any rapprochement, any reconciliation between the European side of NATO and the United States.
Right. So coming back to the question of dialogue and diplomacy, which country do you think can be seen as a major player when it comes to mediation? Right now, Pakistan is involved in the talks, but we haven't seen any further development. Do you think any other country can play a major role when it comes to pushing both parties involved on the table?
It's interesting that until the hostilities started, Oman was the preferred mediator for Iran. It is no longer so. Oman has been attacked, among other countries, relatively less than the United Arab Emirates, less than Kuwait and Qatar, but nevertheless it was attacked. Right now, the mediator, in addition to Pakistan, are Egypt to a degree and Turkey. I think Pakistan also geographically situated in such a way that it will be easy if there is enough agreement to meet with the vice president, J.D. Vance. You can allow some kind of free passage for senior Iranian representative. I think they're literally scaring to fly west, to fly to Istanbul, let alone to fly to Geneva or elsewhere. So it's almost geographically Pakistani is the safe way to go east rather than west.
Right. Dr. Cohen, thank you so much for your valuable insights. As always, we'll of course continue tracking this ever-escalating conflict. Thank you for those insights.
Thank you.